Survivor's Guild. Written by Oriana. On Tumblr. You were heading back home after a long day of school. You stepped in the subway train and sat down to the nearest open seat. Everything was so calming. The atmosphere, people around you didn't seem to be interested in talking. You smiled softly and looked out the window, only to spot a massive fireball coming towards the train. Your eyes slowly opened as everything around you was a little bit blurry. A high-pitched ring was the only thing you could hear, then soon small yelling of people's screams in the distance. You turned to your left and saw all of the passengers laying down in different positions. You turned to your right and saw the same thing. Your body felt so weak. You tried to stand, but you couldn't, as if gravity was forcing you back down to the ground. Your eyes slowly closed as the distant yelling from others around you slowly started to fade. You then woke up, laying in a hospital bed with some bandages wrapped around your arms, legs, and around your forehead. You turned to your side and saw both of your parents talking to the doctor. It's a miracle that they were the only survivor in that villain attack. Although we'll need them to stay put for the night, for their body to rest. Your eyes widened at the sentence the doctor had informed them. You were the only one to pass through that. Why? Tears slipped down your bruised cheek. Tears that weren't for the joy of your survival, but tears of guilt. When he heard about what happened to you, he rushed to the hospital to see you. No matter what he was doing at home or at school, he would drop everything to see if you were okay. Seeing you upset confused him so much. He would have thought that you were going to be relieved that you were alive. He walked towards you and pulled you in for a warming hug. But you didn't hug back, which worried him. He didn't want to push you to talk, especially when you were healing from the worst event. Todoroki gave you some time. For the longest time, you did not talk to him nor to others. You closed yourself from everyone around you. The guilt was too much for you that you didn't want to put your problems in anyone's plate. No matter how many times he informed you that he was always there for you to talk about how you felt or wanted to get something off of your chest, you refused and told him you were fine. But you weren't. How could you feel fine? You would always look back at the event and thought, what would it be like if the scenario was different? There were younger children that were with their parents, young people ready for their work to provide for their family, even elderly folks that could have been traveling to see their families. Those thoughts always made you cry. Why were you the only one to survive the terrible outcome? What is it about you that was so special for you to continue to live while others sadly passed away? One night, Todoroki was just heading to bed until he received a text message from you. You wanted to talk to him about what was going on through the phone, and from there he immediately called you. He could hear you softly hiccup as you accepted the call. Hours have passed by as you told him about your true feelings rather than to brush them off. Knowing him, he could tell what's true and what was not, so there was no point for you to lie. Todoroki constantly tried to tell you that it wasn't in your control of what the outcome could have been. No matter what, you didn't listen to him. You were training to become a hero, and rather than saving lives, you were the only one to walk away from the horrible attack. The only thing Todoroki knew what to do was to comfort you, and to be there when you needed someone to cry on. It would hurt him even more if he only watched you suffer this alone. He couldn't believe what was going on the moment he overheard everyone in class talk about how you were in the hospital. He heard about the villain's attack and how only one person made it out alive, but never in a million years would he have thought it was his beloved. After class had ended, he rushed towards the hospital that you were staying in. The others were just about to ask if he would like to join them to go visit you, but he was already way ahead of them. Kirishima didn't stop to rest, no matter how tired he was. You came first. His heart shattered when you told the nurse that you didn't want to see anyone at the moment, but he understood that you needed some space to collect yourself, so he waited until you were able to leave. As soon as he saw you heading to school, he rushed towards you and wanted to hug you so tightly. He stopped himself when he saw your face. It seemed that you didn't get much sleep at all since you were in the hospital. Not only that, but you seemed very gloomy. Kirishima asked if you were doing okay, which made you tense a little. The thoughts that you kept having while you were recovering came back. You told him that there was nothing for him to worry about, but you didn't want him to be more worried as he was showing you. You held his hand as a way for him to think that you were alright, as you continued to mentally blame yourself since day one. As days passed by, everyone noticed how you isolated yourself, and especially with Kirishima. He felt as if he was bothering you too much by asking about your well-being. He couldn't take it anymore. He ended up blaming himself for being too much to you. Rather than to give you some space to breathe, he kept invading your bubble. When class was over, it was just the two of you walking alone. You stopped walking, which caught Kirishima's attention. You clenched your fist and couldn't hold your tears any longer. Immediately, he held you close to him and comforted you as you cried everything out. You told him that there was no reason for you to be alive, while other passengers sadly didn't make it along with you. You didn't understand why you made it out, why you didn't at least save one person, or why you could ever call yourself a hero. Kirishima didn't say anything. He just held you close to him as you continued to let everything out. When he heard about you being the only survivor in the recent attack, he rushed out of the dorms to go see you. He ignored Aizawa when he yelled at him to come back. Bakugou arrived and ignored the nurses when they told him that visitation hours were over. He didn't want to hear anyone's voice other than yours. When he barged in the room that you were in, you were looking through the window, not bothered to see who it was in the room with you. He walked towards you and gently placed a hand on top of yours. He knew better than to start acting out when you had just experienced something so tragic. He kissed the crown of your head as you continued to look through the window. The day when you finally got out of the hospital, Aizawa informed you to stay with your parents for a couple more days to recover mentally. Even though Bakugou broke the dorm rule, Aizawa understood as to why he did what he did, and gave him a warning. As long as he came back up before dark, Bakugou wouldn't get in trouble. Every day he would be there for you. It didn't matter if you talked or not, He just wanted to be by your side after realizing that he had almost lost you. He held you in his arms as you cried softly in his chest. He didn't need to know what was on your mind. He knew that you were hurting about the whole situation. People would sometimes come up to you and would constantly remind you about that day. Bakugou knew that you blamed yourself for being the only one to walk out of this situation alive, rather than to have used your quirk to save everybody. He held you close when you cried harder. It didn't take a genius to know how much you've been suffering so much. He needed to be calm for your sake, rather than be his usual outbursting self. Each day was a constant comfort from him, along with soft, gentle words to let you know that everything was going to be okay. Panic, worry, anxiety. Every emotion was flowing through his body when he had heard about you being at the hospital after the horrific attack. He needed to know if you were okay. Now. He knew he couldn't just get up and leave class, but it felt as if his body had a mind of its own and went towards the door. He passed President Mike as he was just heading there for English class. Even with his loud voice, calling him to get back in, everything went silent around Midoriya. Finally, facing the door that you were in on the other side, his hand touched the doorknob, but he couldn't bring himself to open it. He felt that this was too soon for you to see visitors. He just wanted you to know that he will be by your side no matter what happened. If that was true, then why couldn't he just open the door? Midoriya could hear you cry on the other side. He finally made up his mind and opened the door slowly. You didn't care who was witnessing your sadness, you just wanted to let everything out. He slowly sat at the edge of the hospital bed and held your hand. You automatically put your head on his shoulder and continued to cry. You asked him so many questions about why you were the only one to survive. You couldn't bear to have the idea in your head that you were worthy of staying on Earth while everyone around you left for good. Thoughts of what other family members of the victims that you once shared the same train was in your mind for a while. Loved ones, friends, family, everyone and anyone who had known that individual. Unfortunately, the villain who attacked the train was never caught or seen, so there was a chance that they were still out there. You looked at Midoriya as serious as you could be while trying to push away your sadness aside. You had asked him that in the near future when they graduate from UA to help you track down that villain if they were still out there till then. Midoriya responded by giving you a serious look and nodded in agreement as he wiped away the tears from your face.
Take you there.